Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it's amazing what you can get done in your track pants, and if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain on, not only their current projects, but state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, and I hope that you would because you're listening to it right now, you can do that wherever you can find your podcasts, either Google, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, and you can find all of our episodes archived at our YouTube channel. Also, it'd be great if you would do us the pleasure of following us on social media. You can do that at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of updates. And finally, and most importantly, would you do us the pleasure of please visiting us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest movie news and reviews from across the world and beyond. We got a hard-working team cracking away on a whole bunch of different fun stuff, and we would certainly love it if you came and checked it out. On this episode, we got a fun one. We are diving into a little bit of animation because our friends over at Walt Disney Animation Studios have Raya and the Last Dragon, which is coming to Disney Plus with Premier Access. The same time it's in theaters, wherever there are theaters at this stage. This coming Friday, March 5th. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie that takes us to the fantasy world of Kumandra, where humans and dragons lived together long ago in harmony, but obviously, there's an evil force involved, and when it threatens the land, the dragons sacrifice themselves to save humanity, and they've had 500 years of peace, but that same evil is returned, and it's up to a young lone warrior named Raya to track down the legendary Last Dragon and restore the fractured land and its divided people. It is a stunning film, and it is a beautiful story, and it is fantastic for all audiences and well worth the surcharge for a rental, especially if you are a family with kids who love their animated movies. It is a delight to absolutely watch, and you will not be bored by it either. It's a great, great film, and we had the distinct pleasure of getting on a Zoom and talking with Mr. Jason Robinson, who served as a technical animator and a rigging artist on the film. And, quite frankly, I asked him what a technical animator does and what a rigging artist does, because you know how it is when you see all these animated films and all these credits, and you never quite understand what half of the jobs entail. But we got down to it, and we talked about the film and what his job entailed, and so very much more. And I hope you enjoy it, because I certainly know that I did. All right. Well, obviously, first off, thank you for the time today, Jason, man. I really appreciate this.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Now, obviously, congratulations on the film, but I think my first question is that whenever I watch these films and I see the credits roll and I see this long list of technical animation, rigging artist, like, I don't understand what half of it means.
What is
Can you
that?
walk me through sort of the job, the definition of like being a rigging artist or a technical animator on a thing like this?
Yeah. So just like a quick definition of what those disciplines entail.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my department, it's kind of like we're like the broad umbrella is we're all called like character technical directors. But under that, it kind of splits up into three different kind of disciplines. We have rigging, like you mentioned, technical animation, and then we have the hair and cloth simulation. So in 3D, everything's done on the computer. It's not like the old days with drawing. The assets first go through modeling department, where they actually create the model of the character in the computer, where you can rotate around it and you can look at it. But at that point, it's still just like a statue in the computer. Okay. It's static. It really can't move at all. And so before it can be animated, it comes into my department, and that's where the rigging discipline comes in. And what we'll do is we'll put in like all the different points of articulation, like different ranges of motion for the body and for the face, so that they can fully walk, they can raise their arms, they can smile, they can blink. They have the full range of emotion available so that animation can now animate that character for whatever the story entails. And so whatever the shot is, whether she's crying or running or jumping, she's able to perform that. And then once animation's animated the movie, it'll go back to technical animation. Well, they will run the cloth simulation, like the clothes that were all designed by the cloth simulation artist. They'll run that on a shot by shot level for every single shot. And so they'll clean up any kind of deformation that wasn't holding up so great. If they really have to push the rig out of its like range of performance, that's can be cleaned up like on a shot level. And then then they run the cloth and hair simulation, and we'll art direct all that stuff until we are finished with like a final approved shot out of technical animation.
So really, it's almost sort of the details oriented section of the entire process, sort of getting the expression, getting sort of the wrinkle in the clothing, getting all that sort of nuance and detail put into the things that we see on screen.
Yeah. So, and rigging is more like the front end of making the movie where we actually create the asset. So, like Raya is now able to be animated and we can sign off on that. And now we're ready to make the movie. Once we're making the movie, technical animation is like working on the shots. So, they are working on the back end of the movie. Exactly.
It, I guess my next question is like, does how much of this comes up in your education as an animator? Because I mean, I'm always kind of curious about that. Because I mean, I can imagine going into a place like Disney, it'll be an education all over again. But I'm just curious about the different sort of divisions that sort of it breaks off into, because there's so many different elements that come together to make a movie like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so for technical animation, often animation is really busy. So they'll do the main performances, but any kind of secondary animation strictly falls into our department. So me personally, I didn't have much experience with that previously. And when I got into I came in as a rigger, but I do both disciplines. And when I came into technical animation, it was a steep learning curve. I learned a lot of the animation principles that weren't really necessary with the rigging side of things, and it's Disney has been a great place to really cultivate those skills with so much talent around. You get a lot of good feedback, and then being there for 8 years now, I feel like I've developed into a pretty decent, nothing like the actual animators, but you do pick up on quite a bit of animation principles for sure.
This definitely feels like a job where all like everything had to come into play, and it was really sort of a very complex thing. Because after watching the film, like I was very impressed just with sort of the sweeping nature of a lot of the shots, the action sequences. I can imagine sort of you've got to go through those bigger sequences like that with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure everything is just right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that stems from like the layout department and the cinematography of the whole thing. But I think like they're top notch. Like they've been doing this on several of our movies over the last decade or so, and I think Disney cinematography is among the best out there right now.
It really does take a village to sort of make these things. And I mean, I can imagine that there are people who are in animation school who don't necessarily equate to the fact right now that okay, you might get a job, but you might be doing the ripples on the pond in the background. Like, can you walk me through just sort of I guess I maybe day one at Disney and sort of learning the trade again, I can imagine, because especially when you're doing a film like this that has so many complex shots in it, it's not just a question of drawing characters and making them come to life. There is so many more layers on top of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like our whole studio is split up into so many different departments, and they all contribute, so much to the film. I don't know. In the past, in the 2D days, like how many, I think we've split up into even more departments the way we do films now. But one of my favorite things about working at Disney is the collaboration between all those different departments, that it doesn't look like it was just all done in isolation, but we really do communicate with each other and try to bring it all cohesively together so that it's all in sync together.
What got you into this business? What made you want to sort of get into animation?
That's a funny question. So growing up in Vancouver, Vancouver was a hotbed for animation. In the early 2000s, still is, right? But yeah, I was in high. So when I was a kid, I was always into drawing. I was an artist. In elementary school, I'd say maybe the best artist in my whole school. When I went to high school, I was like, maybe top five artists in high school. And then I went to art school, and I realized how bad I was, how much I sucked compared to, like, the real artists out there. But growing up wanting to be an artist, always being into that, I remember, in my senior year in high school, wanting to either. My uncle's a firefighter. I either was really planning on being a firefighter or like getting into the animation industry. And I really thought, both are very hard, and so I might as well just go for my dreams with the animation and see how it turns out. And so yeah, I chose to go with the animation.
Now, I'm always curious in this business, like, because I can imagine when you're trying to set up a shot and get something ready, it's like, oh, we want to try it, do it like they did in such and such a movie.
Yeah.
How important is it to sort of go back and reference things that have been done when you're building shots to sort of improve on them and make them even better?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's something that I don't know if we do necessarily on the day-to-day level, but we certainly have that. The history of Disney and our style and everything that we have established, and we want to stay true to that and make sure that our quality is at that same level or even higher, and we take a lot of pride in our work. Doing all that. I think like a lot of the animation principles still go back to the nine old men and the 12 principles of animation. And I think our whole studio takes a lot of pride in that. I really love the fact that our studio is really collaborative in that aspect. And we are given such great art direction that sometimes it's hard to make the 3D look as good as it is in 2D. And so I think Disney's really found the the ability to really translate that traditional 2D look in 3D. Like my favorite example, I think, is like Tangled when it came out. That literally looked like 2D
Right.
animation drawing, but in 3D. I remember like never being blown away like that in my life looking at CG. And so I think a lot of that stems from our leadership and what we've established. Like I know Glenn Keane was the animation supervisor, and he did a lot of drawovers to really help push that look. And we've really held on to that culture even ever since.
Now, I mean, I think something that I love about Raya is that just the film in and of itself, it almost feels like an 80s fantasy action movie. And it really is,
Awesome.
it's the kind of film that it's still staying in sort of the Disney wheelhouse, but it's
Yeah.
pushing boundaries and it's making it feel a little more fresh and original. And I'm kind of curious, from your perspective as sort of a member in these massive teams, how important is it to sort of have material hit your desk to go, okay, we've never done this before. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, you that was a great point. I have to say, like, after being there 8 going on 9 years, we do want new kind of material, reach out of our comfort box of doing similar kind of projects. So to see the action and the fight choreography and all that kind of stuff, I think our visuals have been pushed on this film like better than any of our previous films. Especially, I really love the animation, the lighting, and my department, all the secondary cloth with the cape
For sure.
played a huge role in the hair with the wind and everything is just those extra touches. So yeah, I absolutely think so. I agree.
I mean, it's beautiful animation to the point that makes you forget that it's animated. You really get sort of immersed in the entire thing, which I can imagine is sort of the goal from your perspective as an animator, to not sort of make it feel flat, but you want to make it feel immersive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you guys know this, but we did this whole movie from home.
That's I
Actually,
I was going to ask about that. I've got to figure you guys were doing a lot. I figured you must have been doing so much of the post on this sort of in your homes.
I can't believe how well it turned out. It's amazing because, we are so collaborative that you'd think it'd take a bit of a hit, but to see how the quality turned out, I couldn't be more proud of the whole team. So cool.
It speaks to the creative process when you're allowed to wear your sweatpants to work, doesn't it?
The best thing about, yeah, the working from home is the comfy pants. Absolutely.
Now, I'm just curious for you, just to start putting a bow on this, like from
Yeah.
your perspective in your life, was there a movie or maybe a moment in a movie that sort of was the turning point for you to sort of get you into animation?
I don't know about a specific movie. A couple big things for me growing up were I was always like into drawing when I was a kid, like I said. And when I was 10 years old, my uncle bought me the Hobbit graphic novel.
Oh, nice.
Uh, oh, it's so beautiful. And so, like, that artwork, it, like, to this day inspired me, and that had a huge influence on my life. And then also, growing up in Vancouver, I never dreamed in my life I would, have an opportunity to work at Disney Animation. It was so beyond my scope of thinking. My dream was to work at Mainframe. Like, that was my dream. So that always inspired me to work at Mainframe. And so those things played like a huge role in me trying to get to this point.
Well, you know what? I just congratulations on getting to this point because I think, like you say, Raya is really sort of a testament to the Disney spirit and the creativity to be able to do so much of the post that you all did, like you say, from
Yeah.
home. And it turned
Yeah.
out so amazingly well, and it's a fantastic thing to see. And I just want to say thanks for the time today, man, and congratulations again on the film.
I appreciate it, David. Thanks, man.
All right, bye, guys. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.